First Opium War began as a dispute over the Qing dynasty seizing and then destroying a massive amount of opium from British-owned stocks in China in 1839. The roots of this action were due to the trade imbalance between the two nations. For decades, England had been buying up Chinese goods like silk, porcelain, and tea at staggering amounts. The only thing that the Qing dynasty would accept in trade was silver and refused to trade for any British goods. This very quickly began to put a drain on the British pound and led the British government to fear that if something was not done to balance the trade imbalance, then the British currency would devalue due to the drain on British silver reserves. The British came up with a plan to introduce opium, a highly addictive narcotic, into China to offset the silver deficit in England. The plan worked, and very quickly a large number of Chinese became addicted to the drug and not only balanced the silver issue but reversed it. The Qing dynasty's response was to send a military force to seize and destroy the opium, wrecking their society. The imperial soldiers seized and destroyed thousands of pounds of opium, then blockaded any European merchants from entering and trading with China. England responded with forces and sent a military force to force China to pay for damages and more trade rights. Qing forces were hopelessly outclassed by the modern weapons of the British, and after several crushing naval and land defeats, the Qing dynasty agreed to all of England's terms, some of which include paying for the cost of the war, legalizing opium, ceding Hong Kong to England, and opening additional ports to trade. The civil unrest that this humiliating defeat would cause in China would set up the framework for not only the Second Opium War but also the devastating Taiping Rebellion.
Welcome back, Axis and Allies players, and this is NATO and the CIC, and this is the First Opium War of 1839 to 1842. As you can see, another small conflict. And as the name implies, fought over opium. Going off of the last scenario, all cannon have first strike capabilities now, and in this scenario particularly, British forces will have a +1 on all their attacks and defenses because of their higher technological advantage over the Qing dynasty forces. Pretty simple. England has to take Hong Kong. China and the Qing dynasty have to defend it and keep it. The Qing forces are restricted to militia, infantry, and cavalry, and frigates. They do not have access to cannon. The British forces have everything that's been developed so far. And considerations, as you can see, Qing forces have 4 infantry, British have 2. So considerations, does England move right away? And this is the Qing forces' only income, so this territory right here too. So British considerations are, do they move immediately and land as soon as possible to cut off Qing production? But they'll be doing it with a very limited force, only 2 infantry. So it's a bit of a risk, because there'll be 2 infantry versus 5 or 6. They'll have a little bit of advantage, because Qing forces will be rolling out of 1, whereas British forces will be rolling out of 2, but those 2 infantry will have to survive all on their own against much larger numbers until England can get a second wave there. Or does England hold back and build up a bigger landing strike force to guarantee they can't get wiped out or pushed back out? But if they do that, the Qing forces will be much stronger. So we'll see what England decides to do, whether they attack immediately or wait and build up a little bit. And we'll come back after a couple turns and see what the decision was made. See you then. Well, welcome back, Axis and Allies players. This is NATO and the CIC, and we're in the spring 1840 turn. And as you can see, England has opted to land immediately to cut off king production. And it actually went relatively well for them. Or actually went really well for them. They captured the king frigate, and then they're able to land, and they got 2 hits on king forces to none of their own. So it went really well. So now the king have to decide, do they counterattack or do they just play defense and try to run out the clock? Because they still have the numerical advantage, but they'll be attacking at a 1 versus England's defending at a 2. So we'll see what King's decision is. England put down another transport and an infantry to start getting reinforcements to Hong Kong faster. And we'll see if the Qing dynasty can hold out and defeat England. So we'll come back after a couple more turns and see where everyone's at. See you then. Welcome back, Axis and Allies players, and this is NATO and the CIC. And we're in the spring of the 1841 turn. Not a whole lot happened, just England moving forces around. Qing dynasty doesn't have a production, so it's just got the 3 infantry and 1 militia. England loaded up a transport, the infantry and a cavalry, it's heading to reinforce its units at Hong Kong. Produce a cannon, and then it towed the Qing dynasty frigate back to India, and it's got 4 IPCs worth of damage. Really no point to England repairing it because there's no naval threat, but maybe the last turn England will repair it just for shits and giggles, who knows. But anyways, there's 4 turns left in the war, so once this lands, England's probably going to go on the full offensive and pretty much be attacking every turn because it's got 4 turns to completely wipe out the Qing forces. So, accounting for getting diced in horrible rolls, it's got to pretty much go on full attack mode to ensure that they wipe out the Qing forces before 1842. So, come back in a couple more turns and see where the war's at. See you then. Welcome back, Axis and Allies players. This is NATO and the CIC, and the First Opium War is over, ending in a British victory. It ended in fall of 1841, so a little bit earlier than historically accurate, but British forces were successful and defeated the Qing forces and took control of Hong Kong. Just England got a series of really good rolls, pretty much 3 times in a row. The last 3 combats, it got 2 hits every time. So then, so the Qing weren't able to keep up. So what does that mean going forward? Means, well, England will now control Hong Kong. That's pretty much it for major consequences. So next conflict is the U.S.-Mexican War, because Texas was successful in gaining its independence. So now the United States and Mexico will go to war with each other over, well, partially over the disputed Texas border. There's many more reasons on why that conflict happened, but at least the Casi Bellum before it was the dispute over where the exact border of Texas lied. So we'll retool, set up for the U.S.-Mexican War, and come back with that. See you then.